Stanley's success system is to get the maximum award. That means accident investigation, medical investigation, means hiring expert witnesses and guiding the client to the proper steps that they need to take. Everybody working together as a team over time to understand what needs to be done so that we're all successful, to make sure that we cover every base, to leave no stone unturned. Stanley Law, the maximum award people. Welcome back to That's the Law. I'm Joe Stanley. Today's episode is a little different. We're going to revisit a real car accident case our firm handled many years ago for our client, Don. Don's attorney was Tony Martoscia. What we wanted to do today is to talk about the experience from Don's point of view, what he remembers about the accident, what the legal process was like, and what it meant to have someone helping him through that troublesome time. Every case is different, of course. Don's story is a good reminder that behind every personal injury case is a real person, a real life. So let's bring it on, Don. Do you remember that day of the accident? I do, when I had my accident. How about you?
Joe, I do remember that day of the accident. It was wintertime, really cold, snowy. Windshields were frozen over. Had just pulled out of my driveway to head to work, and before I was at the end of my yard, I was rear-ended, and car didn't go off the road, but I was very startled. And when I think the adrenaline takes over at that point. And I got out of my car and I was like, what just happened? And there was a car, the car that hit me had two younger drivers. They were running late to school. And I noticed on their windshield, they had just a little circle they had scraped off that they were looking out on and they didn't want to get late to school. And they didn't see me when I was driving down the road, and they drove right into the back of my car. So at that point, adrenaline is going full bore. I made sure the kids were okay. We called, my wife came out. She hadn't left for work yet. And, we took the next steps. We called their parents. We called 911, reported an accident. A tow truck had to come, and both of our cars were towed out. And, just a lot. The emotions take over, and you start thinking like, okay, I'm late to work now. Am I hurt? Adrenaline's taking over. I don't feel like I'm hurt, but I'm sure I'm gonna feel hurt in a little bit, because it was quite the collision that occurred.
Yeah, that's interesting. I had a similar experience when I was taking my son to school, and somebody was driving to school and turned left in front of me because there was a young driver, and same thing. And it's one of those things that I don't think most people think about it consciously, but they're always looking for a motive of why. How did this happen? Why did this happen to me? Or why did this happen on this day? And a lot of times there's just a reason that people were in a hurry, careless, not thinking about what was going to happen. You got young people that may not be so experienced either.
That is true.
It's just kind of scary. Although I'll bet, and there's people in this room and people listening, that we've all done the little peeking of the ice before my defrosters. I'm guilty. I've been guilty of that. Sure. I bet you have. Yes. So, but I guess, what do you think that teaches us a lesson about being careful? Because you could do it 99 times, but that one time may not turn out so well. So tell us next what happened. Okay, did you have to go in an ambulance?
I didn't go in an ambulance, but upon my wife's advice, she said, you have a friend that works at Stanley Law that you went to college with. You should give him a call and tell him what just happened. So that's when I called your office. I talked to Tony. Tony and I went to Oswego together, and he gave me some really good advice. He said, okay, he's like, we're going to set up an appointment for you to come in and talk to me. We're going to get a doctor's appointment, go see your doctor to get diagnosed with, because you might not be sore today, but there's a good chance you're going to feel the effects of the collision in a day or two. And he was right. Later in the day, my neck was sore, my lower back was sore. So I knew I was like, okay, so that was good advice. So I set up a doctor's appointment. I went to my primary care, and and started, and got everything on record. Then came to your office and met with Tony and one of your paralegals and just talked about the entire situation.
Well, let me ask you this question, because I know I am, and most people are. You didn't want it. You didn't think you were hurt. You didn't really want to be hurt. Right?
I didn't.
No, I don't want to go to the doctor. Right? I don't want to go to the doctor. I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to do anything. I know after my accident, even though my car was totaled, I walked back to my office. I didn't even want somebody to drive me. I walked back the mile back to my office so somebody could give me a ride. So, but that's one of the lessons that I think Tony told you, and that it's an important lesson to be learned, that most people who don't want to get hurt, don't want to be hurt, still have to understand that we're fragile human beings and that we need to make sure that we are okay. But also, I'm sure Tony told you about the legal ramifications of not getting checked out and not documenting your injuries.
He did, and that was it was when the meeting I had with him was very, very helpful, because we had a police report. We had an appointment to go see the doctor, had called in to my insurance company and reported the accident. Watched my car get towed away with essentially the rear end of it destroyed. And he walked me through the process, and it was like a sense of it really kind of calmed my nerves a little bit, because he explained, he's like, this is why we're seeing the doctor. This is why we're reaching out to the insurance company. We're going to let the process work itself out. And he said, you need to seek treatment for injuries, and I did. He goes, this is why I'm in your corner. I work with the insurance companies. I'll have access to your medical records to see how your progress is going, and then you just have to be patient. You're not going to get the answer that you're looking for, in a week. And he was correct. My car got fixed. I think it was in repair for almost 3 months.
I know that. Yeah. It was 3 months.
Replacing the entire back end. I think the floor. We took it to a really good body shop that my father-in-law recommended. But it was kind of like, when am I getting my car? When am I getting my car? And
you're like most people. We're more concerned about our cars than ourselves.
That is true. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times we think more about it.
Yep.
And it's. We were just talking about this. Why do you think that is? Is that this is something most people don't understand? But accidents, especially with car accidents, the most important thing to people that they worry about the most. And what do you think that is?
I think people don't want to disrupt their daily activities.
They have loss of autonomy.
You don't want to lose. You don't want to be late to work. You don't want to miss time from work. You don't want to miss time going to your kids' games. I know that the same day of the accident, my son had a basketball game, and I wasn't going to miss that for the world. And I'm sitting in the bleachers, and it's like, wow, yeah, my neck hurts, my back hurts. I'm sitting in the bleachers, and I'm looking at my wife. I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure I should be here right now. I probably should be late now. I probably should be home, like taking it easy. Yeah,
and nobody wants to lose that control over their life, because what happens, and you experienced it. And I don't know that had you ever been through an experience before where, you had to go to the doctor's appointments, you had to go to the physical therapies, you had to take the medicine, you had to rest, you had to relax, where somebody else was telling you how things were going to be.
Yeah, it was just like taking his guidance, because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I was in an accident on a Friday, but it's February, and heaven forbid, I'm not going to miss skiing with my buddies on Saturday and Sunday with the ski center that's a mile down the road from our house. And my wife's like, "You're not doing that this weekend. You're not skiing this weekend with your friends."
And that's how people get in trouble legally. Okay, you get hurt, and everybody, I'm fine. I'm going to go stuff, and so they, rather than getting treatment and documenting, they go do stuff.
Yeah.
And then guess what happens?
It gets worse.
They get worse.
Yeah.
A lot worse.
So, Tony gave me really good advice. We did chiropractic care. We went to one of the spinal wellness centers. I ended up getting a pain block in my back because I had some herniated discs. I had some whiplash. The chiropractor worked on my neck for, I think, 3 times a week. I went there for ongoing for almost a year, seeing him for treatment, and it definitely helped.
Speaking of helping, and insurance company, now I'm sure you had to deal with it. I know I had to deal with the no-fault system. And what was your I have never-ending thoughts about the no-fault system, which for the people who are listening, the no-fault system in New York means that if you're in a car accident, the first $50,000 of medical benefits and lost earnings are paid for by the insurance in the car you're in. Okay, the doctors you go to bill them and all this other stuff.
Well, I was just nervous that we'd quickly get through that. We'd hit that threshold, and then I'd have out-of-pocket costs for that. And I had a rental car for 3 months. I'm wondering how long I was going to continue to have that. I live 35 minutes from work, so I'm driving to work, back and forth to work every day for over an hour. Was I going to have my car back in time before my rental car went away? Treatment in terms of seeing the chiropractor. What if a year down the road I have additional pains with my back? So definitely an uneasy process. Yeah, you start thinking of everything.
Did no-fault give you a hard time? Did they send you to their doctors to evaluate you to try and
actually
see if you were...
They didn't. I saw my doctor, and then and I made sure Tony had all the medical reports from my doctor, the chiropractor, the spinal wellness center, and I just kind of...
Well, you are one of the luckiest people in the world. I kind of know what I'm doing. They sent me for my no-fault benefits 6 different times for medical exams to try and cut me off.
Okay.
I guess that's a different...
knock on wood. It wasn't. Yeah, it didn't play out that way for me. So,
but that just adds.
It just adds more to the stress, because you're wondering, like, okay, like when's this eventually going to come to an when's the conclusion happening?
Yeah, and I'm sure that this process you became. As time went on, you became an expert at it, I'm guessing, as to what was good, how to handle it. I mean, okay.
And I really just listened to his advice. He's like, okay, this is what I do, and I'll give you guidance on next steps. Continue to do everything I'm asking you to do, and I'll keep you in the loop as I get more news. And that is the best advice you can give anybody, because I can tell you one of the main issues that our clients have from the gamut, no matter how injured they are, is the frustration with no resolution right away. Sure. Yeah.
And is it going to go on forever? The answer to that is we don't know, and I'm sure Tony told you the most important thing is that we figure out that if you're either going to get better or get as well as you can be, because that's the most important thing. And then, at some point you got to the point where, okay, we can start to talk about compensation now for what you went through. Yeah, and he was great on that. I mean, he said, okay, so you've done all the treatments, you've managed the pain to the best level that you can. Now, and then he took over and he went after compensation. And you didn't have to have a lawsuit. No. Thankfully, no. I mean, he spoke to, whatever he does in terms of talking to the. Yeah. Well, and what we do is we because you did so well in managing your care and doing the things you were supposed to do and documenting the things that you did and how it affected your life, that makes it far much easier for us to go to the insurance companies and say, okay, here's what happened. Your client was, they were in a hurry. They didn't want to clean the windshield off. So it's clearly all their fault. I don't know how fast they were going because they almost totaled his car in his neighborhood. So we also know that there's another little extra layer of he could have been much hurt much worse.
That was I was very thankful that I wasn't taking my kids to school. My kids to school that morning. They actually had a dentist appointment, so typically I would drive them to school. So if they were in the back seat at the time, it would have been much worse.
Right. And so, okay, then, the system works with, you make demands and we recommend a number that's what is fair and reasonable under the circumstances. And I'm sure Tony did all that with you. And you came to a very satisfactory result.
Yes, yeah, I wasn't disappointed. I was very appreciative of what he did for me.
Okay. And, I'm sure, well, you knew him, and so, and he guided you through the process. But what was the one thing that was most unexpected that when you were going through the process, the one thing that you, in your mind, is this really that goes on every time?
It was just the most unexpected. It was probably just making sure I was doing everything that he was asking me to do. And I wanted to make sure that he was giving me guidance, that I was following all the guidance that he was giving me to make sure that I was getting the treatment as I was supposed to, and following all the steps that needed to happen.
And I'm sure he told you what happens if you don't follow the treatment and you don't do what you're supposed to do.
He said that in the insurance, pretty much any chance of a settlement was probably unlikely to happen.
Yeah, because it's life, and they have their little computer parameters, and this is all the data that they only put in facts, and they don't put in the emotional and the other issues that you went through and everybody goes through. They just put in numbers, and they have this algorithm. Maybe it's an AI algorithm now that, I don't know, but that's what they evaluate. And so if you don't have the practical part to make the argument with them, then it's very hard to get a fair resolution. Okay. But it's also important for you. And the most important thing is that I think you would agree, getting better.
And yes. And I could tell that, he cared about me. He wanted me to get better. He wanted to make sure that I was healthy and, back to the daily activities. He knew I was itching to get skiing with my friends again, but also take his advice and follow the process and not get back into things too quickly. Well,
yeah, and I'm sure, did he tell you to talk to your doctor about saying, okay, how is this going to affect me in the future?
He did, yeah. He said, tell him your activities that you like to do. Tell him that you're coaching travel basketball right now. Tell him that, that you're not really, you don't really live a lifestyle where you're relaxed on the weekends. You're working all week and you're pretty active on the weekends too. And just make sure that they're aware of everything that, for your hobbies, everything that you do.
Yeah. Because, getting hurt is one thing. Getting better is really important. And staying healthy for the future is the ultimate.
Absolutely. Because he said, if you're not healthy, it's going to affect, your job. It's going to affect your lifestyle. So he's like, you want to make sure that you were as good as you were before the accident.
I always have to ask this question because it almost never happens. Did you know the people that hit you?
I knew their parents.
Did they ever acknowledge any ways? Did you ever get an apology or anything from them?
It was an awkward situation because one of the parents was one of my kids' teachers.
Okay.
So there was a little bit of an awkward situation, but I was really concerned about both of her kids too, because their windshield was after with the impact, it was actually smashed out. I think one of the kids hit the windshield. Wanted to make sure that he was okay. Their adrenaline. They were just concerned that they were going to be tardy to school. And I was like, whoa, we're gonna get help. Are you okay? And I mean, they were young. They were young drivers.
Yeah. Well, and that's the wisdom part of it.
Well, yeah, I knew the mom, I knew the dad, and yes. So we live in a small town, so it was a little awkward.
Well, it always, and that's the thing about it is that everybody makes mistakes and everybody makes bad decisions. I wouldn't have a job most, whatever. And the doctors would be far less busy if people did the perfect thing all the time. And so as human beings, it's important to understand, okay, that's why we have insurance.
Sure.
That's why we have forgiveness. And I think sometimes that's lost in our world these days, but I think it's important to understand that any of us could be in that situation at any time.
It's true. Very true.
I always think, and I'm sure since you had this happen, you're probably more paranoid, but with my kids, I was always paranoid. Don't do this, don't do that. Watch where you're going. Go slow,
100, absolutely, especially when my son finally, when he got his license, it was wintertime, and he started driving on his own in the wintertime. And the one time he wanted to go skiing, and it was dark out, and I was like, 20 miles an hour all the way to the mountain. I know it's only a couple miles away, but the roads are covered in snow. Like, both hands on the steering wheel. Like, just get there safely. We're watching your speed right now. That's the nice thing with apps now, that you can see what your kids are doing and how fast they're traveling.
Which is a nice thing, because they may not like it, but you're really doing them a favor.
Yeah.
So, in summary, what would you tell somebody who has just been in an accident and doesn't really know what to do and what to expect?
I would say, call an attorney. Absolutely, get and take the advice they give you. They're going to give you the best advice. I mean, and your firm was great with me. I mean, Tony walked me through the process. I went to the doctors. He dealt with the insurance companies. My car was fixed. The three of us that were involved in the accident, we walked away from it, which is a good thing. And just be patient. Be patient. The process will happen as it's supposed to. And
that's the one thing I don't think people really can appreciate what it's like until it happens. I know, and I've represented hundreds of people before, but until you actually have to go through the process and live with it every day, it's hard to understand. It is difficult. And so I'm glad things worked out very well for you. And it's great. It's great to help people, and it really is.
There wasn't any time that I didn't trust what was being told to me. I just needed to listen. I needed to listen to my wife's advice also, slow down. So take your time.
Yeah, and I think that trust is an important relationship with a lawyer, with your doctor, because first of all, you don't trust, you're not going to listen. And so I think that ultimately becomes the guiding light, because if you hear but you don't really hear, then things don't really go well.
Sure.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Joe.
It was great.
I appreciate you having me on.
Don, I appreciate you being here. Stories like yours remind people that our clients are the real heroes. They're the ones who live through it, recover from it, and keep on going. Our job is to stand beside them and work to get them the maximum award.
Here at Stanley Law Offices, our approach is a little bit different than other law firms. Immediately when you call our firm, we're on it. The paralegal reviews the case with an attorney, we review the case, and then we see right then and there if this is something we can help you with or not.
Each case is different, so it's important to understand the nuances. Each person is different and they require different needs, so it's important to evaluate what those needs are, see if the client has any questions or concerns to ensure that they are addressed in a timely and efficient manner. Stanley Law, the maximum award, people.